Right. Some basic information before I dive into this. We've been dating for 5 years before we got married, and we were married for 3 years. Up until recently. I thought our life was as good as it gets. Obviously I was wrong. Now, let me be clear here. I didn't just call up a divorce lawyer and file for papers the moment she expressed an interest in a threesome. No, I talked with her at great length. The house, the whys, the usual stuff. You know, when the woman you married and to whom you swore fidelity and love tells you she wants to have sex with other people. No, me being part of said threesome wouldn't really count for crap. The only thing that mattered to me was that she wanted to bring a third party into our lives, and that was it. So, yeah, for me, a relationship is two people and no more. If one of the parties wants more, you split up nicely and everyone goes their separate way. Of course, that's not how it works in real life. As I've come to find out, my soon-to-be ex-wife brought up the threesome idea 2 weeks ago when we were both at home. I honestly can't remember what even started up that kind of topic. But eventually I got the gist that she wasn't talking about threesomes in just a casual conversational way. So I just point-blank asked her if she was interested in something like that. The long and short of it is, yes, that is something important to her. Something she wants to share with me, which I assume to mean she did it before. I don't really understand the appeal of threesomes. But again, that's on me. I don't think I'm capable of loving more than one person at a time in the romantic sense of way. And I certainly don't sleep with people whom I don't love. So me going through with this would have been basically me forcing myself to do something I don't want. But hey, I didn't want to end my marriage just because my wife wanted a threesome. No, the divorce part only came about after a few days once the idea of it settled in my head. The point is, my wife made it quite clear she wanted to add someone new, or maybe they were already familiar to our lives, and I don't want that. So I had one last chat with her over the matter, and there was this one moment where she acted in such a way to imply that I was almost unreasonable for not wanting this. I don't know, maybe it's that moment that pretty much ended any thoughts of a shared future on my part. Maybe it's another. But after that final talk I knew I was done. I'm not being petty. I'm not asking for alimony. She earns more than me and otherwise comes from a well-off family or our house or anything of the sort. Just the usual template divorce. Pretty much. She won't let go. Of course, she's got a far better lawyer than me. So she's got the divorce tied up in some legal nonsense. I honestly don't understand any of it when even my lawyer said they can't really stop the divorce, just stall it for a bit. All that crap aside, the trouble is now the group of people whom I used to consider as our friends. Now, obviously I didn't think they'd all stay out of this, or there wouldn't be a few who would side with my wife and her attempts to win me back and reconcile. But literally all of them. How? Why? What the hell, am I that unsympathetic? Am I striving to have a monogamous marriage? She has made it clear that this threesome thing was important to her for whatever reason that may be, and that she wanted it to happen. If not now, then in the near future we're living in a city that's quite far from my family, which is few in numbers to begin with. So, yeah, I'm in the process of divorce and basically without anyone around for support, and the folks I usually talk with at work, well, they're not really friends. Sure, I can bitch to them about something every now and again, but bringing them into something as private as this just feels wrong. I just feel alone, and even though I know what I'm doing is right, there are still moments when I find myself questioning if it wouldn't be easier to just reconcile. Even though I know it's the worst possible thing I could do. What the hell do I do? What kind of support could I even hope to find when all those people I thought of as friends deserted me and joined the chorus of my soon-to-be ex-wife? I was having lunch about 8 months ago. I was sitting in the back of the restaurant because I was chatting along with the owner at a back table. I noticed my 35-year-old physician, son-in-law, enter with the lady. I had no idea who she was. They were holding hands. To put this in perspective, I was almost 40 miles from my hometown and his. After about 10 minutes, he spotted me looking at him. He smartly did not approach me and they left shortly afterward. I was stunned. I love my daughter and my grandkids, and this was ripping at my soul. I remembered getting up, and as I did, I felt some pressure in my chest. But made it to my car and drove home. As I drove home, my son-in-law sent me a text message. I opened it when I got home. In the message, he said he was sorry and he never wanted to hurt anybody. I knew my wife would be out till late, so I called his office and left a message for him to come to the house. When he got there, he said he had broken off contact with the other woman and wanted to know what my intentions were. I told him to leave. I then walked into my study and sat and cried for a while. I must have fallen asleep because I heard my wife open the door and asked me if I was okay. I got up and started walking to my living room when I felt the pain start on my left arm and up my arm to my shoulder. I also got sick to my stomach and fell on the floor. I was in and out of consciousness for a while as the EMTs and the hospital docs worked on me. I was later put in intensive care. This story is not about my heart attack or my almost 2-week stay in the hospital. It is about what happened later. I was sitting at home when my son-in-law came along and sat beside me. He asked me if I was going to tell my daughter. I said no because he was. I then gave him a week. He asked me to understand he will get blamed for my heart attack as well as destroy his home. I simply said he should have thought about that before stepping out on his wife. The next day, my daughter was over at the house and she was upset. She wanted to know if she could stay with us until she could find a place to live. Then an interesting thing happened. This woman's husband contacted my daughter. He had suspected something and hired a private investigator. It turns out this woman was sleeping with 5 men. They were headed toward a divorce. I also told my daughter to get STD tested to include HIV testing. She did and discovered she had chlamydia. My daughter contacted a divorce attorney. My daughter would just sit watching her kids sleep and cry. I suggested she see a therapist I knew of and she did. I was sitting on my porch one day when my daughter and wife went shopping. My son-in-law came by and wanted to speak to me. My heart dog had told me clearly to avoid stress and I knew my daughter would be upset, but I did talk to him. I asked him if he felt like an idiot now that he was in fact sharing his AP with 4 other men, that he tossed away his home for that piece of shit. Then gave my daughter chlamydia. I asked him if he was proud of that. I walked back into the house and left him. My son-in-law has 2 other physicians in the clinic he works out of. They all have 33.3% ownership of the business. It looks like my daughter is going to get 15% of the business after the divorce is final, along with the house, sole custody and child support education accounts, as well as good bit of support for about 8 years. This is what her attorney has asked for. What I understand is she will either get the 15% ownership or a settlement equal to the value. Sadly, the APS husband did not do well in their divorce. The state they live in is a no-fault state and he makes 4 times what his wife made. He has spoken to my daughter several times and was planning to just